Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror miser, Monty G. It's time to review the latest horror film, this time from Roger Coogler, the man that gave us Black Panther and Creed, with his partner Michael B. Jordan. This one is called Sinners, because we're all sinners.
Y'all ready for this?
Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the horror miser, Monty G. Now, Sinners is a 2025 American period horror film that was written and directed by Ryan Coogler. Now, the film stars Michael B. Jordan, Haley Stanfield, Miles Canton, Jack O'Connell, Yumi Musaka, and Delroy Lindo. Now, in this film, trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Ooh. Now, horror fans, I would have to say that starting around the early to mid 2010s, a new term of horror was created that was called elevated horror. Now, these types of horror films would be more than just your typical horror films, and they would blend in psychological themes and social commentary along with your usual horror elements. In other words, they would not have the typical horror tropes or the typical horror characters that we see in many horror films, whether it's slasher, supernatural, zombie films. These were more than just horror films. Now, some of these horror films were released by the American independent film studios A24, like The Witch and Hereditary. These are good examples of elevated horror. Now, Witch is a horror film that blends in witchcraft along with the struggles of a Puritan family living in 17th century New England. Now, the film star Anna Taylor Joy. She and her family decided to remove themselves from the New England town that they lived in, and we see the struggles that they have, along with them encountering with a witch. And we see more than just the effects the witch has or does in the film, which is some horrific stuff, but it's mainly the struggles of the Puritan family. So we see more of the social dynamic about the lives and the struggles that they're going through, along with the witchcraft, especially at the end of the film. Now, Hereditary is a film that blends in a dysfunctional family and their issues along with the supernatural, and that comes with disastrous results. So that film starred Toni Collette as a mother who is dealing with the death of her mother and the dysfunctional family that they have with their family, especially her daughter Charlie. And some crazy shit happens to her, and some crazy shit happens to the family at the end of the film. Other films like The Babadook, It Follows, Get Out, and Under His Skin are more examples of bit of horror, as they offer more than just being a typical horror film. Now that brings us to American filmmaker Ryan Coogler's latest project and entry into this term of elevated horror. This one is called Sinner. Taking place in the Mississippi Delta in 1932, we're introduced to twin brothers Elijah Smoke and Elias Stack Moore. Now, they are World War I veterans who have returned to their hometown after spending some time in Chicago. Now, they purchased a sawmill from a racist landowner and decide to turn it into a juke joint using the funds they have stolen from Chicago gangsters. No, they hired their cousin Sammy, known as Preacher Boy, a guitarist, pianist Delta Slim, and Smoke's estranged wife Annie to cook the food. They're going to have food, beer, gambling, having good music, getting the thing down. However, an Irish immigrant named Remick, who is a vampire, is drawn to Sammy's infectious music, decides to come in and join in the fun along with his horde of vampires. Now, can the twins and their friends survive this nightmare that they find themselves in, at least by the stroke of dawn? Well, that's kind of what this film is about. Now, all I have to say about this film, and this is more than just one of the best vampire horror films I have seen. Now, I'm pretty sure most people who know me, how much I love vampires, they're my favorite supernatural creature. As a matter of fact, we just did a series of the Hammer Dracula series starring the late great Christopher Lee. But I believe one of the best vampire movies I have seen in the modern times is 30 Days of Night. Well, this film tops that. Now, I can also say that this is more than just one of the best horror films I've seen so far this year, but this is also one of the best films overall that I have seen. And that's saying something. Yeah, this film is that damn good. Now, Ryan Coogler, known for his outstanding work in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and the Creed films, has done a masterful job in creating a fantastic and very authentic looking horror film. His attention to detail in making the film look and feel like the 1930s is purely a work of genius. This man kicked it out the ballpark. From the stores, the clothes, the language, the music, especially the music is fantastic. You really got to give credit to the production designers, the way they filmed the film at, the cinematography, which I'll discuss later on, and of course, using the type of language that they spoke during that time period. Everything was just perfect. Now, Kugler does a great job in telling the story visually, from the plantation fields, the town, and the juke joint. It makes the audience feel that they're right in that time period. Just look like you've just escaped from modern times and you're right down there in the Mississippi Delta during the 1930s. Now you have to give credit to cinematographer Autumn Doral Archipel. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's done a great job of how well the film looks and feels. She did a fantastic job. Now, what really drives the film, other than the acting, which I will talk about later, is the music, as Ludwig Göransson really brings it home with plenty of African American blues and jazz music, songs that were played during that time period. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of the focal point of the film as the audience is treated to plenty of the songs that were played during that time period. And I'm sure some people wanted to get up in the aisles and start dancing and, you're infectious to see how great those songs are and just want to be enjoyed and get into that juke joint and start putting your thing down. I mean, there is one scene in particular. I believe the character's name is Pearline. She gets up and starts singing, and she's so infectious with her dancing, and the people are stomping, and everyone's just getting into the beat and having a great time dancing. It's one of the great scenes in the film. There is another scene that I really did enjoy is where Coogler brings in generation of music players and dancers, mainly from ancient Africa, the ancestors of Africa, and Afro Americans from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, he really does a great job in blending all those aspects of the present and the past into this scene right here. I mean, he even brings in Chinese dancers back during their day, their ancestors. It's a way of how it shows how transcendent Sammy's music is, bringing in spirits from the present and the past. Fantastic job. It just looks incredible. Now, obviously, one of the best things about the film and drives the film is Michael B. Jordan, as he is fantastic as both Smoke and Stack. Now, while they may be identical twins, each brother has their own personality and beliefs, which is great because you don't want them, you know, being the same thing. They have to have some different personalities, even though they're identical twins. Now, Stack is the more ambitious, a bit reckless, and flamboyant, and willing to go the extra mile in order for the twins to succeed. Smoke, on the other hand, he's more grounded, determined, and will not let anyone take advantage of him or Stack. There was a great scene in the film where we see the dynamic differences between the two, where Stack is more lenient to the people paying, and Smoke is like, no, everyone's got to pay because we need the money in order to keep this juke joint running up. And we get to see the differences between the twin brothers. And Jordan does a great job in displaying their personalities, especially when it comes to dealing with their loved ones and some of the other things that happen in the film. Now, I really did enjoy newcomer Miles Canton, who plays Sammy, the twins' cousin, who is not only great as playing Sammy, he actually does a great job singing. Yes, that he is. He really is singing the songs in particular film because, from what I read about him, he is an R&B singer, and as a matter of fact, he actually sung one of the title songs in the soundtrack. Now, he has great chemistry with Jordan, whether it's with Stack or Smoke, and you can believe that they're related. Even sometimes when they have differences, the chemistry between these two characters, between two actors, is great. Now, Haley Stanfield, she does a good job in playing Mary. She has some type of past with Stack. Obviously, the veteran actor, Delray Lindo, he's great in this particular one as well, playing Delta Swim. He has some great performances in the film, but he's great in almost anything that he's in. I also thought Jack O'Connor was pretty good as Remick, the vampire, as he plays him as a slick but kind Irish gentleman at first, right before he attacks and shows his true evil. Now, as for the vampire effects, well, not as bloody as I expected it to be. If that's the only little nitpick I have for the film, I expect it to be a bit more bloody. However, there's still enough that's happening to make the vampire effects very effective, and they're also pretty good. Almost similar to the vampire effects in 30 Days of Night, though not as frightening. And yes, they do have fangs, but not like I guess you say the teeth are not as vicious as the vampires in 30 Days of Night, but they're still deadly. Now, despite the 137 runtime, the film is paced rather well, as Coogler does a great time in getting the audience to know all of the characters so that when the third act takes place, we all want the people that are left in Sawmill to survive. I thought he did a fantastic job of how pacing the film is. There is no low moments. There is no difference in tone as far as maybe beginning of the film. We get to see a lot of stuff that's happening in the film before it switches over to right when the vampires start to attack, but it still pays very well. Now, I'm sure some people will be getting from Death Till Dawn vibes during the third act, but this film takes a more darker turn when the vampires start to attack, as opposed to from When Death Till Dawn. That was a little bit more of an action fun ride. Now, as I stated earlier, this is more than just your typical vampire horror film or your typical horror film, as Coogler blends and culture regarding African Americans, their past, the music that was played at that time period, the racism that they face, and the Jim Crow laws that they face, and how that it affected their families and friends. So this is much more than just your typical horror film, as like say like 30 Days of Night, even Twilight, even bringing Twilight for that matter of fact. As for me, not only is this just another great horror film that can be included into the elevated horror category, but this will also be included into the evolution of black horror as well. I say that because I just did a live stream with some of my favorite African American YouTubers that are in horror, such as Night from the Night Watch Zone, Lady Sasha, and DeRay from Rainbow Fright. I'm pretty sure that they're going to enjoy this as much as I did, and this can also be included into the evolution of black horror. Now, when it comes to how I'm going to rank this particular film, it took me a long time to try to see if I was going to give it all five of my bloody gold coins, because that's very reserved for fantastic horror films like um, A Quiet Place, Get Out, Nope, and Us. Mainly all those films, I believe I gave them all five of my bloody gold coins. And seeing that this film is just as good as all those films, it does, and it will get all five of my bloody all five of my bloody gold coins, because this film is fantastic. This is definitely will be the best horror film of the year so far, unless something else beat this out, which I really don't know if that could happen, because that's how great this film is. Because as I said before, not only is this just a good horror film, it's a good film overall. And Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, everyone deserved a bit of respect of what the fantastic job they did in this film. So there you have it, horror fans. That is my review and video for Sinners. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share. Really helps out with the YouTube algorithm here. Have you seen Sinners? What do you thought about it? Did you enjoy it as well as I did? Please leave your comments in the comment section below and tell you what you thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I see you in the next video. Guys, stay safe out there.